What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Parrot Press. Today's video is all about the Premier League. If I was to be playing the Premier League, who are the players that I would go and buy? And the reason why I've done this is because heavily I've focused on the La Liga competition. And if you haven't been watching the videos, go back and check those out because of certain reasons. However, I do watch the Premier League the most. Watch it week in and week out. Hugely looking forward to the Premier League season this year. But I wanted to think about, well, if I was to be playing the Premier League and the classic competitions this is, not in season, but obviously you can apply the same thing. Realistically, who would I go out there and pick up? Who would I be able to afford? Who would I look at to be able to compete in 3 different teams in Premier League Classic? And this is a realistic video, okay, in terms of what my budget would be. So the guys like Saka and Kevin De Bruyne and Cole Palmer and all of those guys, Rodri, they are not in this video. Okay, so if you are going out there and buying the best of the best and you're spending that money on those players, good luck to you. You probably don't want to watch this one. This one is all about the kind of sleeper picks, the mediocre players, so to speak, the ones that could spike, playing the game in a different way rather than just buying the best. Let's get into it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the goalkeeper position, and I would pick up Dean Henderson. I think that Crystal Palace are going to have a really good year this year, actually. And Dean Henderson looks like he's going to be guaranteed the #1 spot. He had a few clean sheets and a few good AA games towards the end of last year. And I think that their manager, although he's been there a little while now, but I think that he's starting to get his way of playing. And I think that Dean Henderson will have a very, very good season, a good age as well. And the other reason why I kind of looked at him, and we'll talk about defenders in a little while as well, but there's some really good defenders to stack him with. And yeah, I like Crystal Palace this season. The next goalkeeper that I would pick up is Leno. And by the way, both of these goalkeepers, I would kind of put them in the mid region in terms of price and maybe in terms of ability as well. You know, I wouldn't be able to go out there and buy a Emi Martinez or I don't know what Edison's price is now, but obviously he's staying at City, so I'm assuming that that's kind of rocketed up. But those type of guys, these are guys that I would well, look at the scores. They've got the peaks in them, especially Leno. I mean, I don't really trust Fulham's back line, but I kind of trust him to have some decent AA games. And when he hits that decisive with the AA on top, you're looking at mid-80s and even 197 in there as well. And that's why he would be in there. Picking him in the right game, in the right matchup, but obviously trying to time everything in the right week, etc. I think that it could be a really good thing. I mean, it's obvious, right? But Leno could have another few game weeks in there that's at the top of goalkeeper scoring. Let's move on because I'm losing my words. The next goalkeeper that I would pick up potentially, and this is a kind of a back and forth between this goalkeeper and the next one I'm going to talk about. Again, these are all completing for free lineups, right? For probably you'd probably pay maybe 2 in Division 2 or Division 3 or something if you was to pick up all of these players in terms of where SORARE would put you. And then it's obviously down to you to climb up and down those divisions. But Jose Sarr, and he kind of comes in here just from a price point. He's not overly expensive. He would come in there as my like a D3, D4 team, my 3rd team of the 3 that I would pick. He's got a couple of decent games in him there, but I just wanted somebody who would play week in and week out, definitely be the #1, plays for an okay team, and he's there. But the one that I wouldn't say it's a sleeper pick, but Muric. All right, he's made the transfer from Burnley to Ipswich. I don't know if originally he was still at Manchester City or something. I have no idea. But he will be playing for Ipswich. And if we look at his scores when he was playing for Burnley at the back end of last season, you can see some monster AA games in here. All right, yes, there's not one clean sheet in there, but look at his scores: a 41, a 24, a 28, a 53, a 29 AA game. And Burnley was facing a lot of shots. I get it. But Ipswich are going to face a lot of shots as well in the Premier League. And I don't mind it if he concedes 2 and he's still racking in a 76 for me as a goalkeeper. And for his price point, I would say he's better than Jose Sarr. I don't know how Ipswich are going to be. Don't know if they're going to leak more goals than Burnley or whatever, but as a shot stopper, you know, he's got a long contract there now. I expect him to be the number one, and I expect him to have some really good game weeks. You know, at home against Fulham here, that could be an amazing game week for him. Even this away one against Southampton, at home against Everton, if he gets the clean sheet, you know that he's going to get AA as well. So out of those 4 goalkeepers, I'd probably pick up Leno, Henderson, and this guy, and then see what budget I've got at the end to pick up a 4th goalkeeper to plug and play when the fixtures look good. So moving on to defenders, I would pick up Munoz. Spoke about Henderson, spoke about that you could stack them with a couple of defenders, but Munoz would be the number 1 defender that I would personally pick up. A player that I know extremely well. I've watched him over the last 2 years. I've owned his card a number of times, but he's just getting things together, I suppose, in the Premier League. A little bit of adapting to do. But from an international standpoint, absolutely smashes, as you can see there. But even from a kind of club point of view, a 51 AA game, he suits SORARE down to the ground, like a 46 one here. Yes, you've got some bad scores in between, but the fullbacks or the wing backs on the Palace managers kind of system are so key. You can see that with Kostic when he used to play, when he used to manage Frankfurt, and Kostic was his left wing back. He was just in amongst it all the time. So him, Munoz, and Tyrick Mitchell, if he kind of nails down that left hand slot, I think that they can have some amazing years ahead of them if he stays at the helm, and obviously if they stay fit and their number 1 choice. But Munoz would come in for me. I think that he's going to have some great attacking returns this year. And if you didn't want the wing back, then you've got Anderson in there as well, because his game is suited to SORARE, quite consistent. Got his peaks in him, and again, if they're playing those flying wing backs, Anderson loves a long ball and he's very accurate with his long balls, which help with obviously getting some decent AA in there. He's always a threat in the box. He plays for his nation as well, so he gives you decent utility. And I would 100%, you know, just looking at the fixture list here, maybe this Leicester game week 5-10, I would 100% play all 3 of them, all the Palace boys, and hope for that clean sheet, because they're all capable of delivering. Next one, if you've been following the channel, you know that I like a goalkeeper and a defender stack. And I wouldn't play Robinson with Leno week in and week out. I would play Leno in certain games, etc. But on the right one, I would stack them together. And for the price point, like, I don't mind Robinson. Look at his scores here. It's pretty good. He's got those spikes in him. He gives you some international utility as well. I don't know if they're going to be covered in the game. Obviously, he's American. I have no idea. Or maybe the fixture's just not been announced yet. I don't know. But he's capable. He rarely loses a duel. He's very, very quick. He likes his tackles. He does get forward as well. So he gives you a bit of everything. And again, I'm looking for kind of depth in here and to plug and play certain characters for the budget. Certain players, maybe. I don't know what I was talking about there. But putting certain players in certain game weeks and having the depth that I can actually play the game that way. Now, if you pick up somebody like a Romero or someone like that, you're going to play him week in and week out no matter what, because that's how he scores in SORARE. With players like this or on a lower budget, I need certain pieces so that I can play the fixtures, play the game weeks, play the home versus away, play this, that and the other. So there's 25 players that I think I'm going to go through. But let's crack on with the defenders, because the next one is James Tarkowski. And again, he's a player that's quite cheap, that plays for a mediocre team, really. You know, they've been battling in the last few years, and I think that they're definitely getting better with Sean Dyche at the helm. But he's always in amongst it. Now, he gets a lot of yellow cards. He's capable of this AA, a 58 there, 36, a 42. So he can get these type of scores, but he's a threat in the box as well. Always in amongst it. He's the one that they aim for on every set piece. And he's at a decent age. I think he'll be there for a couple of years as well. So you can build up those XPs on your cards. And he would come in again on the right game week. I'd play him at home against Bournemouth, probably in my second team, maybe even this one with Brighton at home as well. Yeah, I expect another decent season from Tarkowski. Now, this guy is coming back, Luke Shaw, coming back from injury. We saw him for England at the end of the Euros, and he's very decisive capable. Now, if he stays fit, it's a big if, and I think that's reflected in his price point at the moment, and that's why I'd pick him up as a as a bit of a, I suppose, a bargain in terms of what he's actually capable of, or what I think that he's capable of. I think Paul Scholes said the other day on a video that I was watching that Luke Shaw is like such a good fullback, and there's not many better than him when he's actually fit and when he's performing. However, he needs to be fit and he needs to be performing. Otherwise, what's the actual point? But he gives you Europa. What are they in? Are they in Europe this year? I don't know. If they are, then they give you a bit of that. But he will be playing for England as well if he stays fit. And Man United, like it or not, will dominate certain games, and he will be in amongst it down that left hand side. Then moving on to Lewis Dunk, so a centre back this time playing for Brighton. Now, Brighton's going to be an interesting one because obviously they've lost their manager. I don't know how they're going to play under the new manager. I have no idea. But Dunk is again somebody who plays week in and week out, or he has played week in and week out, and he's like Tarkowski in terms of they aim for him in certain set pieces. He's always in amongst it. He's a leader in that team. It says here that you've got some Nations League games in here, but I don't think he makes the England squad too many times. Certainly won't be playing. You can see here from all these sub appearances. But a guy that's decent. Again, plug and play as and when I need to. The next ones. So Pinnock in here are the next three defenders are a little bit of risks really. So I wouldn't call them sleeper picks. I wouldn't call them kind of bargains. I think that they're just pieces that are there that I like the look of at the moment. So Pinnock comes in. He's a very consistent player, and Pinnock actually gets some really good spikes against some of the big clubs. 2-0 win there, or would that be a win or would that be a loss? I don't know. Against Chelsea, and also against Fulham there. I think the one before that is against Man City where he had 100 as well. Capable of scoring goals, gives you some utility there playing for Jamaica every time. And it'd be interesting to see because Brentford didn't have the amazing season that kind of or live up to what they were in previous years last year. So it'd be interesting to see how they bounce back. But for how kind of cheap that guy would be, I'd bring him in. And again, I keep saying it, but plug and play depending on the fixtures. Jed Spence. Now, I couldn't do all of this without including a Spurs player, and the defender that I would probably go out and get if I wasn't looking to play 3 lineups and maybe I was looking to play 2 and obviously save a bit of money would be Porro. I think that he will spike time and time again this season. Obviously, we've got European football this year, so he'll play a lot of games, but with that, playing a lot of games, I think Jed Spence will get some game time this year in a Spurs shirt. Now, we've just sold Emerson Royale to AC Milan, so that right-hand side kind of loses a body. But on the left-hand side as well, we've got Udogie in there, who has had his fair share of injuries in his first year or so. And we've seen Porro play over there. We've seen Emerson Royale play over there. We've seen Jed Spence play over there, actually, in pre-season. So I think that he's going to get some game time. And I think that he will play in the games where we are kind of more likely or should be winning, games against potentially an Ipswich, potentially a Leicester, some games like that. So, yeah, I won't play him week in and week out, right? But it's a Spurs player. Come on, let me have it. Livramento is next. Now, we don't know what's going on with Trippier. All right. Now, if Trippier stays at the price point he is, that's an amazing bargain, in my opinion. Taking all their sets, probably still be their captain. But if he leaves, then Livramento comes in and does that job on the right-hand side. Not necessarily takes the set pieces, but you can see here when he actually plays, he has some really, really good scores. So it'd be an interesting season for him if Trippier does leave. They do like him. They paid a fair bit of money for him. And he is quite expensive at the moment because I think that people are expecting Trippier to leave. But there's been nothing that's confirmed at the moment. So one to watch, I think. Moving from defenders into midfielders, we've got Kai Havertz in here, who's actually quite expensive. 0.058 is his floor price at the moment. And I wouldn't be jumping to buy this player. I'll probably buy him towards the end if I was kind of running thin on sorry, I would leave the more expensive one like him towards the end, pick up all the other pieces first. But yeah, it interests me this season. He interests me, sorry. He had some great games for Arsenal last year. They're going to be playing a lot of games themselves again, so there will be some rotation in there. But Arteta seems to like him. You know, he plays for Germany a lot. He played as their striker. I wouldn't say it was a false nine. I don't think it was a false nine, but he played a lot for them in the Euros anyway. So get some good utility out of him. A player that's going to be part of a team that smash other teams absolutely throughout this year, and I wanted in on that Arsenal piece, and Kai Havertz kind of fitted the bill. Now Emil Smith Rowe would also come into that kind of gallery or my thinking, because he's just made that transition and move over across London to Fulham, and I think that he's just going to be their star man. I've already seen in pre-season he scored a goal or two, kind of coming in from that right-hand flank I think that he was playing at, getting on the end of things. I think that he would do very, very well at Fulham. And again, on the right matchup, I could play Robinson, I could play Emil Smith Rowe, and I could play a Leno in goal as well, and just go for that kind of mini Fulham stack. I think he'll share some of the set pieces as well. I expect like double figures in terms of assists and goals, maybe not in both, but collectively I think that he might get around about 14, 15 decisives this season, and he's capable of some AA as well, so he would come in. Morgan Gibbs-White would come in as well, a kind of more friendly price, but somebody who is their kind of star guy at Nottingham Forest. I think he's taken some penalties in the past as well. I would need to check that, but I'm sure he has. Take some of their set pieces. You look at his performances there, not amazing, but then again, you're not going to get amazing for the price that I'll be looking to pay for certain players. Rodri, that is amazing, but it's also a big hefty price, right? So you're looking at these players that can get to that 80 on a regular basis, and I think that Morgan Gibbs-White can, and it gives you a good opportunity to stack in with a forward that I'll talk about later on in the video as well. James Ward-Prowse is somebody that I would 100% pick up as well. Set piece delivery, this guy's just an absolute fucking magician, really. Capable of these green scores, takes penalties as well. I don't know if he's going to be the penalty taker for West Ham this season, but he can certainly take them, as we saw in a Southampton shirt as well. Been a bit of hit and miss towards the end of the last season, but I think that was West Ham all over. I expect them to be quite strong this year, actually, with some of the signings that they've made. I think they made another one today from a centre-back, which would really tighten up their defensive line for sure. It depends where he's going to be playing as well. I don't see him as a cam. I think he's played cam a few times down here, and I don't really see him as CDM. I see him as this CM, and it'd be interesting to see how many games he gets played there. At the moment, you can see there that I've got my emojis turned on, and that's just probably ruined the video, so thanks a lot for that. Moving on, we've got Kamada, new signing at Crystal Palace. So I'm still on that bandwagon at Crystal Palace as well. I don't know if he's going to fill the shoes of Elise, who's obviously moved and gone to Bayern Munich, but they've also signed Sarr. So it will be a toss-up as to who plays that right-hand kind of cam role alongside Eze playing the left-hand side. But if he does come in and play, he's played for that manager before, so he knows what's going to be asked of him. I wonder what his scores were actually at Frankfurt. You can see very decent, quite consistent. Maybe when he starts, let's go by that. Quite consistent, some green scores at 1 in 2 probably. And he's a very accomplished finisher, left foot and right foot. So it'd be interesting to see how he gets on, but I would pick him up for sure. And the last midfielder that I'd pick up, I struggled a little bit with midfielders actually. But the last one that I'd pick up is John McGinn, because he's very consistent. He's always gonna, like, when you're watching a game, he's always gonna give you 100%, and that's what you want to be watching as a SORARE manager. Somebody that's at least trying and not walking around the pitch and things like that, and risk of getting subs on a regular basis. He plays for his country. He's gonna have European football this year as well for those midweeks, and he's capable of popping up with a decisive. So McGinn would come in. Moving on. Onto the strikers. I've got 6 strikers that I would probably pick up to compete for 3 spots, or obviously the extra spots in a 5-man team. And Jesus is one of them. So pairing it and stacking him with Havertz as an attacking force. Now, I don't know if Arsenal are going to sign a new number 9, but Jesus is back from injury, and you can see here that he is capable of very dark green scores. As with Havertz, he's going to be playing on a team that's going to dominate certain teams and smash certain teams week in and week out, really, in the Premier League. And you want to be a part, you want to have a piece, should I say, of that Arsenal front line. Now, I can't afford Saka. I wouldn't be able to afford Saka if I was to do this, and I wouldn't be able to afford Odegaard as well, I don't think. So bringing in a Havertz and Jesus, they're capable of getting 80 plus in a given game week, which would help. And you know, Jesus is a very accomplished finisher, a very, very good player. So if he can keep fit, I think that he nails down that position and he scores a lot of goals. But we will soon see if Arsenal are out in the market for a new number 9. Stacking with Ward-Prowse. So you can see here from a goalkeeper and a defender point of view that I like to do. I like to stack, but I also like to stack a midfielder and a forward. And I'd stack Jarrod Bowen because he's an AA forward. He gets some decent AA when he plays. A 21 in here, a 12 here, a 15, a 12, etc. Not all the time, but he's capable of it. And that's the main thing for me from a forward. I always want them to have some decent AA. I don't just want them to score 60 points. Now, don't get me wrong. If they were scoring 60 points week in and week out, you can kind of... well, you wouldn't say no, but it's the kind of 80 pluses that you're really looking for. And I think that Bowen has a few of them in his game. He does take some of their set pieces as well. Played a little bit for England over Euros, so you probably get like a 25, 35, etc. points throughout the season here and there when he's playing for England. But I do like that stack with Ward-Prowse because, again, I think that West Ham are going to have an okay season, and they are two of the main players in my opinion. Moving on to another AA forward, and pretty much all of these green scores are AA games. An 18, a 26, another 18, a 25, a 17 there. And when he does have that decisive as well, you stack the decisive with the AA and you're spiking again. You're getting up there into the 80s, and that's where you need to be. Takes most of their set pieces at Everton. And again, if we used to play him with Tarkowski in there, if McNeil whips in that corner, Tarkowski, easy for me to say, on the end of it, all of a sudden that's the double decisive as well. Now, how many times that's going to happen, I don't know. It's just you can put some players together is what I like to do. 3 players left then. So first off, Luis Diaz. I don't know how well Liverpool are going to adjust to Arne Slot's new kind of way of playing or whatever. I think that they should. I watched a lot of his old team when I kind of had some players in the Eredivisie, etc. And they are very attacking, and I do think that they are going to flourish. It's whether Diaz nails that left-hand side. And again, he is a player that he's not amazing AA. He's capable of some in some games, but he's capable of decisives, obviously. Excuse me, it'd just be depending on how many starts that he actually gets. But he does give you utility from an international point of view, and obviously Munoz is from Colombia as well. So again, that's a nice little stack in your midweeks. Should they have international football. Then Callum Hudson-Odoi. So obviously I spoke about Morgan Gibbs-White earlier, and that would be a nice stack as well, because when one plays well, normally the other plays well as well. That's a lot of wells. But he's another forward. Again, it's the same story, right? He's capable of AA, and that's what I'm looking for. He plays a key part for them at that team. Obviously, they don't have Brennan Johnson anymore and that sort of stuff. So I expect him to always kind of play unless he's going through a little bit of a rest or something like that. You can see some sub appearances in here, but I expect him to play most games next season. And again, that would be a nice little stack. And then finally is a player which I think like FPL guys maybe put him into some lineups as an enabler, a price enabler. But you look at his SORARE scores. Let me just go to all in here, and he does give you international utility as well for Cameroon. But he's really capable of decisives and not too bad in terms of AA as well. Now, if Tony leaves, I think that he picks up most of their penalties. I think that he would become a key focus for them. He's young enough to have a good few years kind of in his legs because he's quite quick, he's quite strong. He does things well, you know. He's a really good player. I may be underrated, I don't know, but he would come in as well. So looking at all of this, what would it actually look like if I was to buy the Prem? You'd look something like this. All the players that I've just gone through, 25 players in there competing for 15 slots week in and week out in the Premier League competition. And it just gives me that choice, picking up a few bargains, picking up a few risks here and there as to who to play and focus on certain matchups. When Crystal Palace has got a good home fixture or just a good fixture in general, I could play those three guys, and then I could potentially play the Arsenal boys up top, or I could play the Nottingham Forest boys up top, or whatever, guys who link well together and play the matchups as well. So that's what I would do if I was going to be playing the Prem in SORARE this year. And who knows, towards the end of the year, maybe I will get there. But if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see some more, hit the subscribe button. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the future.